Yeah, see, it's even doing it on Kylie's laptop. It's, oh, you restarted the movie. Okay. I'm gonna say as soon as I pulled up Twitch, all the sound went off.
Well, now we gotta start over. Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, one more time.
Sorry.
Welcome, my friends. Yes.
The
Welcome
boys are
back
making sounds.
to the Best Boys podcast, a
An
film
ASMR
podcast,
adventure.
number 15, brought
Wow,
to you
15.
by the letter B.
That's what, that's almost 4 months? Right? It's 1 week away from 4 months. Wow, that does not feel like we've done this for 4 months. That's my clown math is off.
You're gonna need to speak up if possible.
Sorry. I said it doesn't even feel like it's been almost 4 months, unless my clown math is off. Damn, this year's flown. This whole summer's flown.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess so. You're right. We've been doing it since the beginning of summer.
Yeah.
But here we are.
I watch more movies in the summer than I probably have in like the last 5 years.
I'm probably a little more, but I've been binging a lot the last few years, so this is just a focused binge, I guess, a planned binge. Well, it's not a binge if it's only 2 movies a week. It's kind of, I try not to watch a lot of movies outside of this, unless there's something that Riss wants to watch. But yeah, we're back. It's a Spike Lee episode. I don't know if I ever even said that to anybody, but that's what we're doing.
This is a good time. I like these ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, these were. I like these a lot more than I thought it would. The only thing I'd seen from Spike Lee going into this, I think, was the Old Boy remake, which wasn't very good.
That's considered his worst movie.
Yeah.
Like, by far.
These are both really good. The Five Bloods is super good.
I thought the Five Bloods was good. Well, we'll get to that. But let me remind you who we are. My name's JP, and aka Slob Thomas, and I'm here with this guy,
your boy Kory, sometimes with a story.
This sleepy man over here, over on the West Coast this week in Los Angeles, working on some things. You got any updates for us on that front?
No, just it's gonna be really hot. I'm outside the next 2 days, and it's gonna be 99 degrees both days.
We're recording this very early in the morning, earlier than normal because we have some engagements. As you can see, I got my jersey on. It's football season. For those that are on the video podcast, and so we bumped it up a little this week. Plus, Kory's got some morning work stuff, so he's dealing with some jet lag, and it's even a little early for me on a Sunday, but that's not really a problem. I feel like I go to bed early, like an old person now, because there's usually something going on, and I just rather be up in the morning than be up late at night anymore, which is a strange opposite of the young me that would want to
when I was
stay up late and sleep all morning.
Yeah, I have finally gotten over that whole, I just need to stay up to finish doing these things, so I'm not going to have time to do it tomorrow. But then once you get used to having so much time in the morning, it makes your day feel so much longer. You feel like you can get so much more done. But once the sun goes down and you just don't want to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I just get so much more done. I think that's the reason. If I stay up late at night, it's usually I'm just farting around, laying around, doing nothing. But I have been painting my Warhammer shit like crazy after just having this pile of built stuff, like $1,000 of built things. But now I've been painting, and that's been fun. That's what I did all weekend, basically.
Nice.
Other than we had a funeral to go to, but that was a somber note. But I was glad to just chill on Saturday and paint and watch these movies. Long but good movies. And yeah, this is as far as to get to, our main subject of the day, Spike Lee, my experiences with him. I've seen Black Klansman. I feel like I've seen parts of Do the Right Thing, but I've never seen the whole thing before. But I think that's really it. I don't really think I've seen anything else from him. Bodak just subscribed.
Do the
Thank
right
you.
thing. Where nobody
Heyo.
did the right thing.
Thank you, Bodak.
Nice. They'll be on the audio. Hopefully we get more of those, and then people can chime in and give their opinions. But there's a lot of movies of his. He's got a very storied career with ups and downs. There are notable misses. I believe you referred to Old Boy earlier. But also some really, really good ones. And I think we saw him at the height of his powers, and probably his strongest critical film to date, and Do the Right Thing. So we're doing Do the Right Thing today, and his most recent film, Da Five Bloods, which was strong as well. But I have a lot more to say about that one. Do you want to start? I feel like we were talking about this before. Do you want to start with Do the Right Thing, since that's like since it's first, and it's kind of like his quintessential piece, I would say.
You can see more of the change from 1990 or 89 all the way to 30 years later. Which in my opinion, it's a big jump, but there's definitely a lot of connections that you can see from like the style of how he does his films.
Yeah, so this is his third film. So he's kind of his first like well established by this point film. She's Gotta Have It and School Days are his first two. Mo Better Blues, I suppose, is kind of gets slumped into his beginning phase as well. I've been really wanting to see these films for a really long time. They've been very influential in style to like the aesthetic, the titling and graphic design, the music. You see this on a lot of other movies that follow after. I think of the Kid and Play movies. The comedic, and I don't know, this might just be a sign of the time, and I have a problem where I like to assign direct influence to things that I don't fully know the full picture of yet. So, but I do see that link, where this is a critical thing that came before, and then you had more popular commercial things with using those aesthetics that have followed after, like the House Party series and whatnot. Even Martin Lawrence is in the House Party series.
Yeah.
Is in Do the Right Thing. Do the Right Thing. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say it. It definitely sets up that whole like kind of genre of films. All have that, like, it's colorful, but it still has like the heavy subject matter, but it's done in such more like, seems like a more joking way until shit hits the fan.
It feels, and I think it makes it feel real, but also it's a little like pulpy at the same time. I saw in research for this episode, I saw people describe when Spike is at his peak of his powers, that there's like this pulp element to it, where it's like kind of not like boiled down a little bit and like stylized, and there's like you said, there's this funness to it. It's not super real, but the elements that happen, the story beats, especially in Do the Right Thing, feel very real to this day. That's what make this film so powerful to me, is how relevant it is to what we have going on, 20 years late, 30 years later. This movie came out when I was born. Not when I was born, but the same year.
Yeah, it's like 3 months.
So I like it feels very formative, to the time when we grow up, and kids also, like how we felt about kids. This feels even more so to that. I mean, it's a few years earlier, so we don't have like this direct connection. But we grew up in like the fallout of this movement. I think of like Living Color and just a lot of stuff in the early '90s that were influenced by these kinds of projects.
Mm. Yeah, it's crazy how much just from the difference of 6 years and shooting in the same, shooting in New York, how different like the two different directors make it feel. It almost feels like two separate things. Where Do the Right Thing almost feels like it's on a soundstage for most of the film.
It's
The way
definitely
that it's shot,
smaller. It feels
um,
smaller because it's supposed to be
yeah,
like this neighborhood, like it's a closed off neighborhood almost.
yeah, and the way that they like lit it, everything's very well like lit and everything, so it makes it feel like you're like I've
Oh, the
worked on
stage
the
thing, yeah, like a theater
yeah,
stage.
exactly.
Th-
Because in I've been on like the Universal lot for Cinegear and work and stuff, and it's literally when you go on the studio lot, it's just a fake city in there, very similar to like something like this. So it very much felt like this was more like a not like a stage play, but just kind of like it felt more like a I guess not as real, but the like the human interactions and stuff felt like kind of not campy at first, but just more fun and bubbly
there is
with
a
this
level of
colorful
camp.
aesthetic.
It feels real, but
Um,
it feels like over the top, or like
yeah, yeah,
it feels like a play. Like there's
yeah, very much.
a dramatization, and like you said, it's fun, and I mean these are all elements of this real neighborhood that he's trying to capture, where
Yeah,
there is a community, and and it's really sad how this movie ends because I don't think that any of these people truly like hate each other.
no,
Um,
no,
but it just these like tensions boil into this point, and the system gets involved, and the system fucks it up, and it
yeah.
just makes it worse for everyone involved. Um, so yeah, do we want to go into the basis of the movie? It's an ensemble cast. Spike Lee is the lead of the film, playing
Which I didn't know going into. The first like half hour of the movie, I'm just like, is that Spike Lee? That looks and kind of sounds just like him. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously it's him, and it's I thought he did a good job. The cast I think was really good. I liked Radio Raheem a lot, and but the mayor is probably my favorite because he was just like this drunk guy walking around, but like a heart of gold essentially. Trying to like impress my mother sister and try to like always make sure the kids are doing like nice thing. He refers to all of the kids as doctors, which I thought was fun. I don't know if there's any other meaning behind that though, I mean the premise of the movie is it's hot 100 degrees in New York, and everybody is just getting more and more pissed off as the day goes on, and like the whole movie takes place across like a day. Um, but how did you feel about the cast?
it's a really strong cast. A lot of these actors have been working for a really long time. John Turturro's in it. Ozzie Davis plays the mayor, who's had this long storied career.
Mm,
Ruby, Giancarlo Esposito, who is famous for being Gus from Breaking Bad, is it's wild seeing him so young and playing this very different character, and then the straight laced, very clinical Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. And I
yeah.
mean, I've seen him in so many little things, and it's crazy that he didn't really get his flowers till that point, because the fact that he's been, was in this movie and many more, in shows and things over the years, and just, yeah, he was in his 50s and or whatever, and Breaking Bad just blew him up. But good for him. Yeah, I love him. John, like I said, John Turturro. Spike Lee actually was probably the worst actor in the film, but still held his own.
Yeah. That's
Rosie Perez. This is probably the youngest I've seen her in a film. I know this is like the worst, not like probably the worst example, the most normie example, but I always remember her from being the crooked police officer in Pineapple Express.
Oh wow, I didn't even notice that.
Yes, that's her very young. Martin Lawrence has a small part. Samuel L. Jackson, who I didn't know was in this movie. That was
Yeah, it
that was the one
opens
I
with
didn't know. Has a movie stealing performance as his radio host, Senior Love
Mr.
Daddy.
Yeah.
And it's like a radio host in the window, so everyone can see that he can interact with the people, out in the street, and it's just it feels very relevant, and it just fits really with the motif that's going on. Like there's a radio thing going on through the movie, which actually is in Da 5 Bloods as well, but to a smaller degree. And I think it really sets the scene for everything. But when things get chaotic, the fun radio guy kind of takes a step back. Like they show a shot of him, I think, when all the chaos is happening in the end. But the fun and the theatrics of it kind of peel back, and things get really fucking real in the end of the movie. After we're having like this fun, being immersed in this like diverse a neighborhood, and like there's turbulence, but it's really generally everybody kind of getting along. Even with the racial tensions that come up in the movie, it's over a fucking getting a black person's picture on a wall of fame in an Italian American pizzeria. And I think that I watched some analyses and reviews afterwards. I mean, Riss talked about it, and a lot of people and the pizza place is called Famous Sal's, and it is Sal's played by Danny Aiello. His two sons are idiots. John Turturro is one, and they are, I forget the name of the other guy. He's in a bunch of shit as well. And there's like this, most of his clientele are African Americans. He's opened in an African American neighborhood because there's too many pizzerias in the Italian neighborhoods, and he does well, seems to do well there. But there's this the one son is really racist, and Mookie works there, and Mookie is a slacker, but he kind of means well, and he kind of brings a vibe to the place that I think is needed. Some levity and diversity to the staff. Though he is a slacker, Mookie kind of sucks, and we find that out. Like as much as Mookie is really likable, Mookie is a good guy, and he seems like you think he's got a good head on his shoulder because he's so confident, and kind of cool out in the street. But when it comes to his own life, he's pretty shitty. He's barely holding this pizza job, and
never sees his kid.
Yeah, he neglectful father, and only sees his baby mama for sex, and but he plays it slick,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's great. John Turturro I didn't know was in this at first, and when I saw him, I was like, oh, he's funny, and then he's one of the worst people in the movie.
Yeah, he sucks.
But the dynamic. That dynamic between all the people at Sal's Famous, like Sal, what is it, Pino and Vito, with Mookie though, that all those interactions in the shop, it's very much kind of just like the New York, hey, like repeating the same thing that you said. It's like, did he just ask me to do this? I swear, did he not ask me to do this? But it's very funny, the way it's all delivered, and I really like the guy who played Sal, but Mookie, like I used to be a pizza delivery driver, and you'd be fired after the first delivery if you just stopped and took a shower, or just stopped and hung out with your girlfriend for what seems like at least a half an hour. Like
there's this long
90-minute
sex
delivery.
scene. Yeah.
And like is not getting fired, and at the end, and at one point towards the end, Sal's just like, you know what, you always got a place here, Mookie. Even though you're terrible at your job, but apparently we only get 5 deliveries a day, so you're fine to just take an hour and a half fucking lunch breaks and just stop whatever you're doing and go back to work whenever you please.
Yeah. So the main, like I was saying, the main conflict of the movie deals with Sal's Pizzeria having this Hall of Fame, and it's all like Frank Sinatra and Al Pacino, all Italian Americans, and Giancarlo Esposito's character is known as Bugging Out. He says that, and he's introduced in a pretty shitty way where he tries to buy pizza that's $2, and he crumbles up a $1 bill and just expects them to accept that, because he refuses to pay $2, and then he immediately demands, after the pizza shop owner was like, all right, whatever, and you can have it, and then demands that they put a black person on the wall, which I think that there's a valid argument to that, because most of your clientele are black people, and it would be nice to say that. And then Sal's argument is kind of valid as well, especially when you think about how ethnic white ethnic identity was in the early 90s, like
especially in New York.
New York, in cities, neighborhoods, like Italian neighborhood, Polish neighborhood, whatever. So like I get his argument, like it's for Italian, this is an Italian, Italian shop. We're Italian and we want to, talk about Italians. And and I think ultimately the Giancarlo Esposito is probably the history will win out with. But I think it's just the way it'll happen and the aggressiveness. That kind of like I think it's supposed to be presented like both people have an argument here, and both people are abrasive to a degree. The Italian son, but also Sal is pretty abrasive. Sal kind of gets there's a lot of ambiguity for a movie that's called Do the Right Thing. It doesn't really present to you clear
what the right thing
good
is.
And bad characters. Obviously John Turturro is bad because he's racist.
Yeah.
But everyone else, I think, in the film is presented with good and bad. I've read readings that present Sal as being bad, but I think that it's more complicated, more nuanced than that. And
I would say it's... Sorry, I'm sorry.
The whole motif of the film being, it's called Do the Right Thing, but what is the right thing? And everyone's doing the right thing to them or whatever, and in the moment this might seem like the right thing, but was it really the right thing, and all that kind of stuff. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I think it's extremely more complicated for Sal's thing, because it's like
I can't hear you.
Nope, I feel like I'm yelling. Can you hear me now?
Might be me. Yeah, no, it's me. It's me.
Okay.
My cord got pulled out. We'll edit it. We'll edit that out. Go ahead. Well, ready? You can go ahead.
But it's way more complicated especially with the Sal thing, because it's after I watched the movie and after the main climax, my whole thing was just like, there's two ways you can look at this for how the ending of the movie went. It's either Sal's fault for not wanting to letting them put a picture of a famous black person on the wall, or is it Radio Raheem's fault for being very not understanding? If you walk into a business blasting a radio and they ask you to turn it down, and then you just keep screaming more back at it, although Sal shouldn't have taken the bat to the boombox, but it's like there's so many people, it's like this could have been prevented. The whole ending could have been prevented if just somebody had one of the between bugging out Radio Raheem and Sal had a little more patience. And it's like just such a situation.
Yes, that is why it is it is tragic. That's what makes the ending so tragic and impactful, as it was completely avoidable.
Yeah, well, Mookie kind of set off the whole the events too that led to the police showing up in droves too, because he thrown the trash can.
That wasn't until after Radio Raheem died.
Oh, that's true. That is after that. Yeah.
That was his response to the murder of Radio Raheem, and I don't even think it was about Sal's at that point, because Mookie explains it to Sal at the end. He's like, you got insurance. You're gonna get you're gonna get money for this. You'll be able to open a new shop. He kind of explained his reasoning for why he did it. But we don't have shit. We still don't have shit at the end of the day. We can't. What can we do when one of our own was murdered? It's so relevant. This story is so relevant to today. With this literally just happened with George Floyd. There's also you could draw connections to many of these stories. Eric Garner, Philando Castile, Breonna Taylor, etc. And it kind of explains the cycle of rage. And these tensions that have boiled, because it's not like this isn't just about the boombox. It's about it's about history. It's what's been going on in America and what the Italian immigrant story. And there's also this animosity, and I'll pass this over to you. But there's also this comparisons between immigrants and how Italian Americans, they came to America and it took them a couple generations to build up enough wealth to have businesses and things. And then they talk about the Korean, I believe it was a Korean American.
Yeah.
They're the markets and how they just come here and immediately they own all these stores and markets. Small bodegas and stuff, nothing big, but from the perspective of these black people that have lived here for generations, they have to grapple with why this is happening. And this movie brings up multiple perspectives on why this is. And these tensions because of that, these comparisons, we're living together in this diverse community, but why do some have some and some have none? It's part of the tensions, I think. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the whole scene with Sweet Dick Willie and the other two guys.
Those guys are hilarious.
Sweet Dick Willie's awesome name.
He pretty much just keeps saying, great name, right?
Yeah, right. But they have a whole conversation about this when they're like looking over at the Korean guy's store, and the one guy's like, he's either a genius or we're like the dumbest motherfuckers alive, because of how like quickly like they were there for less than a year and they were able to open up a shop and everything. But then they bring up the one guy who brings that up is also just like, it's keeping the black man down and all that stuff. And then the other two guys are like, you can't keep, using that as an excuse to, what's it called, to not do something. And then they all just, joke around and laugh at each other. But it was just like bringing that up in that kind of way, because it's like a comedic point. It's a comedic delivery, but it's bringing up such a real point. It's just like, why is that? But in reality, it's just because the bank lenders especially at that time and today, still like don't give loans out to black people at the same proportion that they do for other ethnicities and stuff. And it's like there's you are for sure, like there is an element of the man keeping you down for sure, but at the same time, when you've been put down for so long, how do you have the want to even try something, because you feel like you're just going to be shit on the entire way going through trying to make it happen.
I'm gonna even just beyond the specifics of it. They just say, it's the system. It's it's the way the system is built to keep black people down. And then they talk about other things as well. It's not like that's the only theory, but I mean that seems to be what the film walks away from as bringing light to this is a thing.
Yeah, it's like a combination of like the real stuff that you are aware of and happening, but also like growing up generation after generation and seeing like what happens whenever like back then, especially what happens whenever like a black man tries to make it, so to speak. Just all the adversities and stuff, and it can be just like, what's the point? Do you just like this? So many people like in the movie, they're just there for. They've lived on that, like the mayor, he and mother sister, like they've just been there their whole lives, and so all they have is to just try to keep their neighborhood like together and with whatever powers they have.
And that's just, it's sad because there is this sense of community, there is tensions, but they don't seem to be actually directed at each other personally. It's like, that's what's weird about it. Like, I mean, there is, like, Radio Raheem makes the choice to never turn his thing off. And honestly, I believe, and this is a theory, and I don't mean to be insulting if this is not the intent of the character. And also, we need to also bring it on, because we've been watching a few different movies made by African American directors, filmmakers, and we need to identify that as straight white men and just white people, that we can only have a certain level of understanding and perspective on what these stories that they're trying to tell in this voice. So any critique is always taken with a grain of salt, and always try to keep that in mind. But doesn't mean we can't talk about it and analyze it or anything like that, and especially enjoy these great films. But anyway, sorry. I feel like that disclaimer needed to be made because we've been talking a lot about. We've been doing some really good African American films, and not just made by, but dealing with these struggles. But I don't remember what I was saying before that. Oh, Radio Raheem, the character. Me and Riss were talking that it seemed like he might have some kind of mental, health issue. I don't know about maybe autism or something, but it's like we were thinking about the fixation on the one song and the having to blast his one song constantly and everything, like not a deep level, but some kind of small level that like the attachment and obsession over the boombox in the one Public Enemy song, not even just Public Enemy, it's the one song, and the song being another theme of the film, Fight the Power. And it made me think about, his state of mind and keeping, if Sal or the people involved with what was happening knew that about Radio Raheem in a modern, in terms of modern sense, would you would be a little more understanding than just immediately smash this thing. And Smiley, yeah. there is a mentally handicapped character named Smiley throughout the film who's trying to sell art that is it's photocopied pictures of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, which is another theme of the film we haven't talked about, is the reconciling of these two philosophies and what do we do with those going forward, which I think in the end Mookie made that decision by throwing the can into the window after Raheem was murdered by police. I don't know if we were explicit about how that went down. Sorry, I'll wrap this up and throw it back to you. But I think if there was that understanding and was able to get that kind of, not that he needed care essentially, but just that kind of awareness, that this event could have another way this event could have been avoided. And Smiley. Just real quick, Smiley, who's the person, the mentally handicapped person that sells pictures of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, he plays a major part because the son is really mean to him at one point and not understanding of him, and it leads to the main reason why Sal's gets burnt down, because Smiley is who lights the match. Go ahead. What do you think about all that?
It's such a hard thing because the way Radio Raheem comes in so aggressive with everything, and it's like, when he comes into Sal's with the blasting the music, and he's just calling him motherfucker this, motherfucker that, and it's like, I feel like even having that slight mental handicap, it would be hard for any business owner to kind of really read that whenever there's so much anger coming out of it.
There's just something.
It's such a complicated situation.
There's something better that we could have done, besides like smashing his radio, and also getting a situation started that brings the police and enables his murder. I think within the new political conversations that we're having regarding policing and things, I think it all got politicized with defund the police, but a lot of the things people are talking about is, instead of having cops come down in a situation like this, maybe having a police officer there, but having a social worker or somebody lead what's going on and try to diffuse the situation, rather than immediately kill someone. Escalating to the highest end. And it's, I think that's what the people on the right, they boil things down to they're saying to take the money away from the police. And it's there's just another way to do this. There's a better way. And that scene and how the whole end of the movie plays out is a result of this antiquated policing system, and also just the system, how it affects African Americans. Do you think that Radio Raheem would have been murdered if he was white? This movie definitely says no. This movie definitely says no.
Probably not. I think if it all went down again,
Exactly the same.
exactly the same, probably not.
I would
I
say
think.
probably not as well. Even if he got
Well,
roughed up, it's still
is it
not
still
murdered.
are we still consider in the same community, the same neighborhood, and everything?
As much as we can keep the same, to make it a comparison.
Yeah.
I think in reality, no, and I think this movie is definitely asserting no.
No, for sure.
Yeah, obviously the movie, but
because I feel like if it was the only thing I can think of is like if he was white, I feel like all of the black people in the community would have been less getting heavily involved in because it became a big mob of people trying to pull people off of each other and all that. But I think
it was like trying to people break. It was just a natural people trying to break up a fight. Like that, it wasn't anything abnormal until murder happened. That is what made it into an abnormal situation, I think.
Because well, you had like the 4 kids that came in with Martin Lawrence and the other 2 guys and the girl, and they jumped in at one point to start like hitting
well,
Sal.
And it was because of Sal who said the N-word, and that was when Sal's rage came. Like those people were on Sal's side, and that is also the thing I forgot about, because I was trying to say Sal is a neutral character in this, with flaws. He comes off
for the most part,
but in the end, he's shouting the N-word at them in in something that has to do with a racial protest. And all the black people in there, the patrons that were supporting Sal and be like, get the fuck out of here, turn that off, Raheem, are immediately on their Raheem and bugging outside, understandably so. So I forgot that is an important detail. I mean, he's frustrated, but it's no excuse to use that word. And Sal didn't use it throughout the entire film. It was only John Turturro that did.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder where he heard that from, because it is his dad. So I guess I more understand with that. But I do feel bad for Sal. I do. I think Sal is a sympathetic character, but I think that at the end of the day, this is something could have been avoided in many ways by multiple people involved, and ultimately got to this level because of systemic racism. And it's what this film's trying to say. And maybe when this film came out, someone could try to argue it, but how much visual evidence we've gotten in the last 30 years since. The fact that this exact situation has happened and caused, civil unrest throughout the country, and just activism throughout the positive activism and change throughout the country, speaks to the power of this film and this story. And and I haven't revealed how I've actually felt about it, but we haven't said anything bad about it. This is an amazing movie. This is maybe one of the best movies I've ever seen. Like I said, the power, the relevance of it, the style, the color, the stage, the ensemble cast. I think the only things I could knock it for, me and Riss last night were just trying to find criticisms because we couldn't. And I would say the use of Fight the Power, overuse of Fight the Power. I would have loved to hear a few more songs on this soundtrack than just Fight the Power, but I think that there's a reason why the repetition is used in an artistic sense. So I think I can find a pass for that, but it did get to me by the end of the movie. And I think maybe that's the point. The whole opening of the movie is Fight the Power for like 6 minutes on loop while we watch Ruby Perez dance. Yeah. Rosie Perez, excuse me. Keep combining Ruby D and Rosie Perez. I'm annoyed by the song by the end of the movie, and I love that song, and I love Public Enemy. And then Spike Lee's acting is cool, but sometimes it's not the best. But it's just because he's got so many great actors in his cast.
Yeah. I would say the only knock I have is Spike Lee is a bad actor in this movie. But honestly, when you're also directing, like he produced, wrote, and directed this, so you have so many moving parts. So probably the last thing you're thinking of is just like, my character is just a vehicle to get you around the neighborhood and get you into Sal's. But the everybody else in the neighborhood is the real cast. But
I liked his
cool.
vibe though. Like, yeah, he wasn't a great actor, but he was like, there was something cool about him. Like, he just felt like that cool guy that was always around.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just that's always around town and everybody knows him. You know,
Yeah.
it worked. So it still worked for me, and I don't think that was enough to bring it down
No,
here.
yeah. I nothing that I would be like, oh man, he sucks. It was just like it's just not the best.
Noticeable,
Yeah.
especially compared to this cast.
Oh, of course. But I was gonna say I love how much of this. The big thing for me, at least, that felt like a play style is when a lot of this would just cut to just not a close up, but just like kind of like a medium shot but always looking up, and they're always like making them feel bigger, like talking down, not talking down to the audience, but just like talking down towards the camera, and they're just kind of like monologuing for a little bit. And you had that with Radio Rakim and his introduction, you had that with Mookie on a scene, you had that with
multiple bugging. I'm just clicking through screenshots, and they're all from that angle, or like they're either straight on or they're a little bit below. Also use of Dutch angles was really interesting at times. When they were used. This is the picture I have up right now. The scene when Raheem and Bugging Out walk into Sal's, is on a Dutch angle, and it's at that lower angle, and it's like the shit. It feels shit is off, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he incorporated some Dutch angles early in the movie, which I was like, I wonder why, because it was still when things were pretty calm, but it would just be like the mayor talking to like the 4 kids on the stoop, and when it would cut to the kids, it would just be Dutch angle, and it's like, is this a foreshadowing for something? But
I think it's also like it gives it some style, like in a surreal way, like a comical way. Also, like, I don't think the Dutch angle always means eerie. I think it just means like it can be surreal or off, or
so something is off kilter.
But it can be off in a chaotic positive way, if that makes sense. I feel like I talk in D&D, what's it called, alignment anymore a lot from playing so much. But great movie. We didn't talk. We got to wrap up with this one just because we're on a time crunch today. But we just brushed over DeMayer. You talked about DeMayer, but DeMayer is one of the best roles in the film. I would say Sal's great. Sal was nominated. The actor Danny Aiello was nominated for an Oscar. It was the only person in the cast nominated for an Oscar. That's crazy. Really? The white guy is not. That just speaks to everything in this movie. And it's nothing about Danny Aiello because his performance is great.
Sal was great, but
I feel like Bugging Out, Radio Raheem, even the mayor are all great characters.
The mayor was my favorite of the acting and stuff. I thought he did the like functioning alcoholic, just looking after his neighborhood guy pretty well.
Me and Rist recently watched Bubba Hotep on Comet, the basic cable channel, and he plays JFK or like Jack Kennedy or something, and he's black, and he just never explained. He's like, I'm the real Jack Kennedy or something like that. It's so funny. Oh my god, he's really, really funny in that, and he's really funny in this. He's just a really likable guy.
In the movie,
Bruce Campbell and Elvis.
Yeah. I've never seen that, but I heard so many things about it.
Yes, I'm trying to sing. Just a couple of fun little notes that I had. Apparently, Spike Lee wanted Robert De Niro to play Sal, but De Niro was too busy. We mentioned earlier that Martin Lawrence was in it, a small part. I guess that's really it. I love this film.
How'd you feel about Martin Lawrence's Lisp in this movie?
I think it was cool to see him play a more like background character that wasn't just like stealing the scene. Like he wasn't the leader of the gang or anything, or he wasn't the cool guy in the group. It was kind of cool to see him in a role like that, because you don't see him. I haven't seen him in many roles like that.
At first, I thought he was doing the Lisp to like make fun of like whoever, like when he first like starts talking, but then he has it through the whole movie, and it was just like at first it was like, it seemed like it was so over the top, with it, but it was committed with the whole thing, so it was just like part of the character. But it was just interesting because he's so young in this and just kind of, he's Martin Lawrence, but yeah, like you said, it was kind of nice. But yeah, for the love hate for Keem having the love hate brass knuckle things on him, I feel like he he was just very angry.
Yeah, he's an angry man. He was angry, but he wore colorful clothes.
Yeah.
There's so much color, and this is the style of the late '80s, early '90s. Just so
Mhm.
much color. And I also read in the production that Spike wanted everyone to not. He tried to eliminate the color blue from props and costuming as much as possible to try to enhance the feeling of how hot it is, which I thought was interesting. Was an interesting detail. I think that you hear about those kinds of things, like and people latch on to how crazy that is or whatever, but it just speaks to how to make a good film visually. And if you really want every shot to be, a painting, like they say, or whatever, it's not just the framing and everything. Like, there's a serious attention to detail in everything that you can have to really curate the exact look you're going for. And I think that's how people like Wes Anderson and others, or Riss is downstairs watching a Taika Waititi movie, and just how people like develop their styles in that way.
Yeah, with film, Evan and I always say, and most people I think are right on this, but like, art department is the most important department on a film set. Like what you throw in front of the lens is way more important than like you could have the
How
best
it's
DP in
put
the world
together, yeah,
and
and the
all that.
best
But if it,
camera and everything. Yeah, you have
but
Roger Deakins on the best camera in the world.
yeah, but if you don't have the art department there, like setting everything, it sets the tone. It's that even how you light everything. Like lighting is just as important as, but I would say art department slightly more because you can have great lighting, but if there's nothing interesting to kind of like immerse you into the room or into the area or whatever, it's just you're just watching something on a screen. Rather than feeling like you're there and you're understanding like the setting and the characters and all how they're feeling and how they interact and live in this. One of my favorite like set on this was all of the interior apartment scenes were super dark and contrasty, but you have just the bright orange glow from the heat coming in from outside, and it's just so like all silhouette-y. But there's a lot of handheld shots in there too. It just makes it kind of feel more like, I guess, more real, more at home, more fly on the wall. I just was done so well, and it was probably my favorite. Like those scenes were probably my favorite from like a lighting standpoint and just kind of like set direction because it conveyed the heat, it conveyed the the class, I guess. I don't know how I would say it. Like the income of the area and just kind of like how
Oh
everyone
yeah,
is surviving and everything.
it's still, and I
Uh,
love when they illustrate that, but it's still vivid and beautiful at the same
yeah,
time.
like that the use of like the heavy orange
The
light
bright red
coming in.
wall. The bright
Yeah,
red wall,
well,
and with the three old guys in the umbrella, like, is
yeah,
such a
yeah.
cool shot. I thought every
And
time it came up, it was like, this looks so good.
with Tina's apartment, they had just so red not curtains but like the shades, I guess, for the windows. But when you had the light coming like hitting through that red, it just like popped in this all black scene. It just like um yeah, it really punches home just like the heat, but also just kind of like the I don't want to say blood, but like the, I guess, yeah, like boiling blood. Just look at the tension of everything because red is such an aggressive color.
Yeah. When it's like, speaking of the heat, I think for sure is trying to, now that I know what he was saying about color and eliminating blues and wanting hot colors, it
Mhm.
definitely explains why so much red and orange and yellow is used in the more in the sets, but than in the costumes. But there's a little red on everybody, I notice.
Mhm.
Um, and if there's not, it's behind them or something. The one thing, and let's give the scores after this and move on. But the one thing I wanted to ask you, style wise, the shot wise, I noticed. How did you feel about the shot through the box fan? That was like, looked like a strobe light because he was like shooting I don't know if it's shooting through the fan or if it was shooting like in a way that the fan was hitting the light, so it was just this strobe light through the fan. It was during the sex. It was during the sex scene, the ice cube sex scene.
Oh, okay,
And
gotcha,
at the
gotcha.
end of it, it was like a strobe light from the box fan. And if you didn't notice it, then you must not notice it. But Riss did not Riss did not like it, and I thought it was cool. But then it
I know what you're talking about.
But Riss, I thought it was cool. But then like strobe lights are just kind of hard on the eyes. But I didn't mind it or anything. I was curious if you thought that was cool, or if you thought that was lame, or you just didn't. You were indifferent to it.
I didn't really notice it because I just felt part of the scene, and when something just feels like it flows part of the scene, well, it's just kind of it's kind of like a good movie score where it's, if you don't notice it, it's doing the right thing. But it's I would say it was either them cutting the light intentionally or shooting through the fan, but the I mean it works for that scene. Man, I forgot my last thing I was to say. There's so many scenes that just cut mid-sentence and abruptly and change to another scene, which I
I like that. Because honestly, I didn't notice that. So the fact that, because sometimes Riss usually points that kind of thing out, and the fact that I didn't even notice that, it just helped the flow. It fit the flow and style of the film so well, like you were just saying with that. This movie's great. What are you scoring it?
I'm torn. I'm somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5. I really like this.
Really?
Yeah.
I was torn between a 4.5 and a 5, and I think I'm giving it a 5.
Okay.
What's there to bring it down for? Like that's what I kept thinking. Like there's nothing I can say that can bring it down.
I feel like it was a tiny bit long, and
it's 2 hours flat.
Yeah, and then the scenes with Spike Lee sometimes took me out of it, but I'm like solid 4.5 after talking about it.
I mean, you don't gotta come up because I was high on it, but I definitely think this is a near perfect film. I think the power of it elevates it that extra half star for me. The power and relevance of it. So I think I'm gonna give it a 5. I think I'm gonna put it at number 1. I don't know. Gummo, and comparing Gummo to this is impossible.
But I slightly like Minari better, but I feel like it's because Minari first had more like pulling at my heartstrings moments.
I think Minari is I think my only issue with Minari, it was like his conventional American story that's been told a million times. It's just been, this is a newer a different perspective, and that's what makes Minari special. But that I think is what holds me back from giving it a 5, is because like I feel like I've seen that story before. So that it didn't. I think this movie. I also bawled my eyes out at the end of this movie. Not the end, but like the Radio Raheem section, because it just felt so real. Like I was reliving the riot summer, the George Floyd riot summer last year, and maybe that's also why, like, our own PTSD from living in these times. And not, honestly, and that's sad to say because we're not even the ones first experiencing it firsthand. So you can only imagine. But so maybe if one day we get beyond all this shit, we'll have that same feeling, like while we're this generation, or right now we're in the midst of this very struggle. So I don't know, but yeah, I'm feeling good about that. So interesting enough. Interesting because I heard you say positive things about The Five Bloods, and if you scored this 4.5, and you also felt good about The Five Bloods. I liked The Five Bloods, but I also found a lot more wrong with it.
I don't like. I think this is Do the Right Thing is a better movie than The Five Bloods. I just like the Five Bloods. I like.
Yes. I love the Five Bloods.
Ensemble cast. I like the movies where you're kind of you're focusing on like the group, so you can like really deep dive to the character emotion and developing stuff. Whereas it's like a movie like Do the Right Thing, you're just jumping around so much to get the story and to get the setting and the the immersion. and you can still get all the emotional points that you need to hit. But with the Five Bloods, you're following these four guys for the whole movie, and when certain things happen, the midway point, my jaw dropped, and just like emotions were felt, because I felt like, like these guys are like, it's just like seeing a group of friends go on a trip essentially, but it's no, we'll talk about it before we start giving away story beats and stuff, but
well, I feel like I like starting with the story, because then we can just talk about how I felt about it after that. No, we don't have to go in deep, but like a quick like the few sentence synopsis. Basically, the story is you got five friends who served together in Vietnam in the same unit. One of them is dead. One of them died in Vietnam. And you find in the beginning, the story is they're going back to find his remains, and it's sponsored by the government in conjunction with the Vietnamese government, and it just seems like this veteran thing, and it's a nice thing that they're gonna do and have a reunion and whatever. And then you get there. So I feel like this movie has got like two halves. So the first movie is just them all having this reunion in Vietnam. They're going to the bar and they're catching up with old flames and whatever. And then the second half of the movie is like the adventure, where they are out in the jungle and they are looking for what you find out that they're actually there looking for some stashed U.S. government gold bars that were lost in their last mission or something, one of the last missions. Chadwick Boseman plays the fifth friend who died in action.
I felt that was really sad, just because like Chadwick Boseman passed last year, or was it 2 years ago? But not long after this movie came out, and it, for some reason, just like, because him being the dead character in this and him being dead in real life.
Oh yeah, it makes it way more powerful.
It felt very sad, just because this was like one of his last movies.
His performance and Delroy Lindo's performance, who I would say is the main guy. I forgot his character's name. He loves
Paul.
Trump. Paul, that's it. I'm gonna pull that up. His performance is fucking amazing and just crazy powerful. Like, especially when you start out hating him, absolutely hating him. And then he goes off and has like these long monologues. This movie is indulgent. I think we can say that. This reminds me of The Irishman, in that like Netflix must have been like, hey, we'll produce this movie, we'll distribute this movie for you. We're not gonna say what
make a thing.
Yeah, make your movie. We're not gonna say anything about it. Just turn it in. We'll put it up. That's what this felt like. So like there is I think a desperate need for an editor at the wheel, or just someone to help cut some of this shit out.
My biggest gripe was the length, for sure, but it didn't feel long to me in the first half, though. I loved all the stuff pre-jungle.
See, I hate it. I thought this movie was absolutely terrible pre-jungle, and that's what I'm excited to get to. Pre-jungle was so cliche and shitty that I was like, this movie is straight up 2 or maybe 1 for me right now. This scene.
Oh, wow.
Well, before I get to that, let me talk about the cast beyond Delroy Lindo. Clark Peters. There's 2 actors from The Wire, which you're going to be hearing me talk about The Wire a lot. But Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who played Melvin, and Clark Peters, who played Otis, who ends up being like the other kind of lead, like the second male lead of the film. They're both from The Wire, and they have great lead parts in that show. The Wire's one of the best shows ever. Isaiah Whitlock says his catchphrase from The Wire, which is "shit." And when he said it, I got out of my seat and was like, yes. Yes. I think it's so funny that that's become a meme for him, that it is now transcending multiple medias. That if you cast him in something, just expect that he might say shit. I wonder if they wrote that in, or
if it was just shit,
or
he
if
put
it's
his own quote
improvised.
on
Like
it.
he just tries to improvise it in everything he does. I think it would had to have been cognizant of it, because the fact that you cast 2 characters from The Wire and they're both in the lead parts and they're a part of the main cast. I think Spike might have recently watched The Wire before he casted this film, but that's just me assuming, because I like to, like I said earlier, directly connect everything. This is a direct influence of why this happened. But yeah, and then also we also need to talk about Jonathan Majors, who plays Paul's son, David. Jonathan Majors is great. He's in Lovecraft Country. He's also in The Last Black Man in San Francisco, which is a great A24 movie that we will probably watch someday. That's my first experience with Jonathan Majors, and he's great in everything I see him in. He's kind of like Yahya Abdul-Mateen. They're like around the same age. They're both on HBO shows. HBO. One was on Watchmen and one was on Lovecraft Country. Both coming out of indie, like A24 indie flicks. Yeah, they're like of the same class to me, and love him in this. He was really good. He's like a professor. He from Morehouse College, a black college, and he's kind of, I don't know, he kind of seemed like he showed up to keep an eye on his dad, but also he seems to know about the gold and pretty much demands a cut from the jump.
Yeah, he's like, I read all your emails. Your password is 1234.
Oh yeah, because he's an
but
idiot.
I feel like it was more like, I want to know where my dad's going or why he's going, because it could be a thing where it's like maybe because he said his dad has nightmares over Vietnam all the time, and
yeah,
like
Paul has
PTSD,
severe PTSD. Like they all say they do, but they kind of try to play off Paul's, but Paul is literally insane because of he's still dealing with his demons from the war,
which you find out more of like later on.
There's also I guess we mention there's also flashbacks throughout the movie of the and they're shot like straight up war scenes, and they chose to not de-age any of the Bloods, and Chadwick Boseman is at his age when he died, but the rest of them are like their current selves, which I thought was an interesting choice.
I like that, to be honest.
It worked. It worked fine.
Yeah, because I took it as it's them reliving it now, like now.
Yes, yes. And when like the way they go to action later in the film, which is not quite like how you think it would be. Like, oh, these old guys are all gonna have to fight again in the end, which they do, but it's a little different than exactly that. They're still these people. I think that's what it's also trying to underline. These are the same guys. As they were then. They're older. They're worn a little bit, but they're still the same guys.
Excuse me.
But let me finish. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I like why I like the first half so much was just because like, and you could say the first half is a little long. I think it's about a little over an hour before they make it to the jungle.
Yes,
but
they find the gold at exactly halfway.
Gotcha. I like the interaction between them, and I liked like you were getting backstory just from their interactions, not even necessarily talking about what they're doing like outside of the movie, but just kind of like how they play off of each other, like who's what role in the friend group and everything. And it was funny. It was fun. Obviously, Paul is dealing like when that dude's trying to sell him a chicken, and he just loses his shit on the boat, or he's he's the MAGA guy, which is very odd. But and it made me have more of an emotional impact when they got to the jungle and shit started going down. 'Cause I just felt bad every time something bad happened. I felt so bad. Like I had tears well up whenever the one character, Eddie, who we didn't really talk a lot about, he's played by Norm Lewis.
Yeah, wait, let's not get to that yet, because that's all I was trying to say is I still want to talk about the beginning.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm sorry.
So I didn't get to finish talking about the beginning. The beginning, as I hated, and it's because it's so cliche and bad. The dialogue with them all, with the French guy,
Mm-hmm.
is terrible. That whole scene was terrible. The scene with Clark Peters in his old flame and his illegitimate daughter
Mm.
that he'd never met is also extremely cliche and has been in a million movies and everything about Vietnam. Like you have to have a long lost child. I feel
Yeah.
like it honestly just reminded me of Hey Arnold. And Mr. Wynn's long lost child, but also yeah, I've seen it in a million things, and that scene was just so heavy handed and cringe. The radio things in this movie with the like they do this flashback grainy Hanoi radio thing, and I think I looked into it and it's something that was a thing in Hanoi at the time. But the way it was used, the fact that they show you the whole sequence, and then they keep coming back to it, and instead of showing you new things, they just show you smaller chunks of that original sequence, and like that is a thing. I was like, why? Like, why did we need to? Like, I guess I get you're trying to like establish a vibe, and
Mm.
like this is the memories that they keep hearing in their heads or whatever of the time. And there's a lot of there's flashbacks because I get it, Vietnam flashbacks, the way memories and PTSD work. Like there is a good use of those themes, but I feel like it just pads the runtime and doesn't really like
Mm.
make the film better. I like seeing it once. There's a lot of creative things he does. He throws this movie gets the kitchen sink thrown at it. There's monologues. There's like theater stage looking stuff. There's the radio things. There's flashbacks. It goes 4:3. I love the way when it goes from flashback that the screen just shrinks and grows
Mm.
back and forth instead of just being
Yeah.
cut. They use slideshows, multiple points in the movie, like
But
picture
yeah,
slides.
every time they reference like a famous black person or something, they cut and put the person's picture and name on the screen.
I like.
Or
I I realized
uh,
that I realized that pad the runtime as well, but like in a good way, and like that was part of his
mm,
like that was part of the
gives you context
story.
of who
Is
he's
give it well,
talking
it's
about.
Black History. Black History is
Yeah.
another theme of the movie. Is just talking about black people in Black history that we don't know quite as much about
Mm.
than the typical the ones we get taught about as kids. Do you have something to say?
I was just agreeing to what you were saying, essentially saying the same thing.
But yeah, did you agree about how? Well, you said you liked the first section, and I thought that it was cliche and cringe, and I
Yeah,
was
I did. I
worried.
didn't
I was
feel.
worried about my enjoyment. I was like, "This is a slog, and it's 2.5 hours." I'm like, "This is gonna be bad." And then once the adventure started, like not like once they just straight up started, it was fine.
Mm.
Like the chicken scene and all that, I was interested in all that. It started to come together. The guy who plays, sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but the guy who plays the Roche, the ultimate bad
The
guy,
rush.
yeah, where John Reno. He's
Yeah.
the classic French actor from the Leon the Professional with that's Natalie Portman's opening role. I really want to see that movie. I've never seen it before, but he's a really classic French actor from the '90s. That's in a ton of cool shit. Like he did a lot of action stuff. There was like his friend Leon the Professional is kind of like Chow Yun Fat kind of a little bit.
Gotcha. But with
Um,
French action film.
but yeah, his performance is kind of not good. It's very phoned in. I hate to
Yeah.
say it's very phoned in, and it doesn't really offer anything to the
Yeah, I agree
film.
with that.
I was excited that he was in it, but he wasn't very good. That scene, just scenes with him and the scenes with. It wasn't the lady's fault. The female actress, I didn't know her name. I forget. Tien, I believe is the character's name. But those scenes were just all bad. But they do set up the film to move forward in the second half.
Mm. I was gonna say his character and then the group the three people from Lamb, the mind disarming people, the
Oh
girl that
yeah,
couldn't
yeah, we didn't
art.
talk about
I didn't
that.
really I didn't I and there's no I'm sure she's a great actor, but for some reason her dialogue lines just sounded bad to me.
The French
Um,
girl.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
don't know.
have a
It's just
problem with her. I think just her being French, there's gonna be like it's like harder to tell because of the
yeah.
accent, and that might have been even the issue with Jean Reno, but
Yeah, no, his. I mean, when they're doing the negotiation scene, it just there's like no tension in it because he just seems like he just doesn't care. But maybe also he's like some big rich millionaire guy, so maybe he just doesn't care whether this happens or not. Um, but I don't know. I know what you mean.
it's bloated and indulgent. But once the adventure gets started for me, it gets a lot better. Though the ending I start to check out when it gets very cliche, like the drug cartels come to steal the gold, and
Yeah,
there's just a lot of cliche about it.
I was hoping it wasn't gonna go down that road. That's my biggest thing with it. Was just like you had to set up to be something so much cooler,
More
and
powerful
then
than this,
yeah, and
than
just
just a
it,
basic cliche
it's
story. The
yeah,
the
it
mo-
got that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the mine stuff I thought was actually at first I was like okay, and then the mine stuff was actually good because it became
Yeah,
this
I
level of
liked it.
uncertainty that anyone could step on a mine at any time. And Paul's whole thing where he just starts praying and walking through the jungle because he's like I'm done with y'all. I'm just getting out of here, and
Mm,
fucking just walks through the jungle and there could be a mine anywhere. And he just pray
mm.
like God's gonna take care of me, and if this is meant to be, it's meant to be. And he ends up getting killed in the end by the I don't know if they're cartel. I just keep calling them that because it's like that cliche group in
Yeah,
these
I don't
kind of
even know if they were
movies.
mentioned the name
They're just
because
some
they
kind
were
of
like,
crime organization.
so they were working for Desroches,
Yeah,
the French guy. So it's just, I guess they're part of his art cartel. I don't know. He just wanted the gold, but um,
there's a lot. This movie has a lot great about it and a lot good about it, and I think it could have been edited into a 4 for me. Not to
mm,
start talking about numbers already, but I think it could have been edited into a great movie to me.
mm,
But it is, and is a lot great about it, and I think that makes it worth seeing if you have the time to. I just put this on while I was just hanging out and doing a couple things. I started like working on models and things while I watched it, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad watch, but I feel like if I just was sitting there watching it, that it would have been much more of a slog for me. I had to pause it multiple times in the beginning, also for all the cringe Trump shit that kept coming out of Paul's mouth. It was like, oh my god, like it's heavy-handed, but it is kind of actually how these people talk. So
yeah, so yeah, it's
it
spot on.
it didn't really bother me that much.
Yeah, they all those people have the same talking points, so there's only so much you can stretch out of that. But I I definitely feel like this movie is too long. Definitely, I feel like the 2 hours, shave a half hour of this, get rid of a little bit in the front and get rid of some of the stuff in the middle. But overall though, when we start getting into the deaths and when the stakes get raised from the
Yeah,
minefields
once.
and everything,
So yeah,
like.
talk about Eddie. You wanted to talk about Eddie. Talk about Eddie.
Okay, so Eddie, which we didn't really talk. He was the other member of the four guys that come out, and he's supposed to be like the rich guy in the group who has all these car dealerships and shit. And then you find out that he's broke. Whenever they get the gold, everyone wants to keep it for themselves, like their share for themselves. And Eddie's like, Norm wanted us to give this back to,
The
as
people.
reparations to the people, and all this stuff. And while he's like going on about this and stuff, everyone is kind of like, you think Otis is kind of leaning that way. Paul's very much like, fuck you, I got mines. um but then later, they're like slightly later, they're just talking and he just is backing up and it just explodes. And then they just cut to him screaming and they show it and his arms are gone and his waist, below his waist, is gone. And he's just screaming and he's just he's just a torso, and it's so horrifying and so sad because Eddie was he was like doing the right thing and is a nice guy. He was just like, and he just got done talking about how broke he was and now he doesn't have any money because he blew it all away or made bad investments and stuff. And he just, yeah, oh man, it was so sad. I felt so bad. It sucked so bad.
Yeah, it was
That
really
sets
sad.
the
That was
tone
the
for
movie
the
at its peak. That was definitely the
yeah
movie at its peak, was that scene. Because that was like, there was chaos for like the next half hour from that point till
yeah
things kind of settled down again. And it was that movie, that was when the movie's at its best. And that was like the adventure half of the movie is actually really good. And then it starts to become like, once the gang gets involved is when it
mm,
starts to be bad again. Like when it's just the mine people and Paul going crazy and like them fighting
yeah
over like the element of them going crazy over the gold. Like there's like once you guys
mhm.
have it, they start, it's a cliche in these kind of treasure hunt movies where once they find the gold, they start backstabbing each other, and that doesn't
Yeah.
happen fully, but I think Paul does that a little bit. He just
I think
starts
Paul thinks
taking,
he's gonna get backstabbed, and so he tries
he gets
to, like,
paranoid. Yeah.
yeah, he tries to get a leg up and be like, oh, I'll backstab you before you backstab me. Um, but
Um,
the this could have been such a more interesting story if you got rid of that part of the action elements, like the we'll keep saying the cartel people, um,
I did
because
like
while I
once
did
they came out, I was like, oh, and then I
yeah
realized where it was going, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, because you see that little inkling. There's just like a shot of just like the two guys with guns in the like woods watching them, and then it's just like goes away for like 15 minutes, and it was like, man, this is Expendables.
Yeah,
um,
I read in some reviews that this is very similar to the plot of Rambo 2, Rambo First Blood Part 2,
yeah,
where I think he has to go on a mission to get an old buddy and there's gold involved and all that. And like so the review was like, this is like Rambo Part 2 but good. And I thought that was funny. But also I think that's what makes it feel cliche because we know this story.
yeah,
We know these beats, but this is making it about these black men and their experience in Vietnam, but also it's making it about mental illness and PTSD. They also talk about it like there's this thing where they roast one of the characters for needing painkillers because they're old and have
yeah.
back problems or something,
He's a bad
and
hip.
yeah, that's it. And at first you think about it, but also like they're gonna be carrying. Like, do they know how heavy gold bars are? Like, he's gonna need that. If he has a
Yeah, right.
problem, he's not gonna be able to do this without that. And it comes up, and and after he gets roasted, you find out one of the other characters, Melvin, also was prescribed the exact same thing,
Yeah,
and just hands him his bottle.
because they say once they get the gold, they mention like, dude, they're carrying like 40 pounds extra a piece, just in gold, and the only one who's actually strong enough to like walk normally with it is David, because he's young. But they very much seem like you guys didn't think this through kind of thing.
Yeah, they did.
Um,
Yeah, that was the point where it reminded me of stupid ass Army of the Dead, not because when they got to the money, it was like, how are you guys gonna get all this out of here in time? You can't.
mm,
You physically can't. And then you find out because that movie's poorly written that was never the intention. Was never for them to take all that money.
yeah,
Um, or
but
this, they make it a plot point, and it's better written in that way. I do think this movie isn't the best. The dialogue is good in parts, but there's also like a lot of I love all the monologues and the flashback with Chadwick
I
Boseman, but there is some bad dialogue in the first
mm,
in the first half of, from my
mhm.
opinion, and the ending as well. That is not as up to par. That's what I mean. This movie just messy. It's like if this could have been tightened up
Mhm.
by like somebody, with either the editing or what have you, just kind of make tightening things up. I think
Mm.
be a possible classic, but it's
Yeah,
not for
the
me.
with the oh god, I just lost it. Shit. Um, the it'll
Oh,
come
all
back to me
right,
in a
yeah,
second.
don't do
Um,
that.
sorry, I just had it, and as soon as you stopped talking, it went away. Um,
Um, I
but
mean,
oh, I was gonna say this is. Sorry, I got it. I think this is an example of when a cast lifts a script up. Um, because
I
the main
agree.
ensemble cast, like the main four guys, I think are phenomenal. I think that they are the reason why I like this so much is because I care
But
about
Chadwick
them,
Boseman, honestly, Chadwick
and
Boseman and Jonathan Majors as well. And honestly,
That's
that
yeah,
Asian
like the
guy's good. Vin was his name.
Vin.
I
Yeah,
really loved his character. He was just super chill about everything.
yeah. But I think that that's why I like it so much. Is I feel like if you had different actors in this might not have worked well. I think the casting was good.
It's well, it's super well casted.
Because
And
the cliche parts, like they didn't come off as cliche to me because I like the people who were delivering the lines. But the
some of that shit could not have been saved, in my
yeah.
opinion.
But there's at least a half hour to cut off of this movie of just the bad dialogue.
Yeah, just bad
stuff.
cringe scenes and bad dialogue.
But there's a good movie in there.
Yes, there's a great movie in there, in my opinion. It's just, how much are you willing to insert the extra investment in this film? Yeah, it's super indulgent. I think indulgent is this isn't. I know when I use that word, I always mean like there's a great idea here or there's something good here, but they maybe are taking some things super far. Like you're throwing too much at it, and like there is a point where less is more with this film. But this is a more is more film.
Yeah, this is
but not in a good
circling
way.
back to the Vietnam like cartel guys coming in, but as soon as they showed up, I just couldn't stop thinking about Tropic Thunder, which is a hot take, I'd say, but it just reminded me of the whole setup with them.
Well, that movie's a parody. That movie's also a parody of Rambo.
Yeah,
like that's
but
like those
from,
films,
like stepping on the mines, everything.
Yeah,
literally
those are all tropes. That's what he's using genre tropes.
Yeah.
In this film as well, and I think it takes away from it because it takes away the uniqueness. Like he's putting a unique spin on a genre and tropes, but I think the reliance on some of those tropes end up taking away from the power of the uniqueness of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I get what he's trying to do, but I don't think it always worked, I guess is what and it's execution. Still liked it though. And it may and next time, we do Spike Lee. Well, you wanted to watch Black Klansman, I insisted we watch this instead because it's his newest. I've seen Black Klansman, and it's a much better film. I would put it with, Spike and at the height of his powers for sure. So if you like this, you'll definitely love Black Klansman. I think Black Klansman's the kind of story in this style like that would resonate with you more. But all right. Let's do it. Let's score it. Let's wrap it up. I know we both got things to do today. You got a busy day.
I gotta go to work.
I go into I think Dad's or something to watch football, I think. But yeah.
Stillers.
What are you giving to Five Bloods?
I liked it, and now talking it out, I'm definitely sitting more at like a 3.5. I think I liked a lot about this, but
I feel like what keeps happening, and like if this is happening, I mean, obviously discussion is gonna. I've changed my score from before I start the episode to after we discuss, but I want to make sure that like what I'm saying about the movie isn't like grafting onto you and then devaluing how you felt about it.
It's bringing up points I not necessarily would have thought.
Okay. I mean, obviously we've disagreed. See the Atomic Blonde episode, but we've definitely disagreed before. But I want to make sure that just address that. Because it kind of can happen when you're talking to people about stuff. All right, 3.5.
Because I liked it a lot, but it didn't like it as much as Do the Right Thing, and I don't think it had the same kind of like newer, like more powerful feelings as that kind of did. But it's great acting. It's great. There's great emotional moments that actually like hit home and deliver. There's just you just got a slightly better dialogue and clean up about a half hour off this movie.
I've given this movie a 3. Like I said, there's a 4 inside of this movie. I think Delroy Lindo should have been nominated for an Oscar, and I think from just reading other people's reactions to the film, that seems to be not an unpopular sentiment. There's a lot good pieces in it, but there's also the I can't escape the Expendables vibes, and we're gonna have to watch Rambo 2 at some point, probably next Boomfest. But I can't help but think about the cartel existing in the Suicide Squad, Expendables, and this movie, and being the exact same role. This one's not the government. In Expendables and in Suicide Squad, they are the government. They're like the dictator government, but it's basically the same role. And it kind of just makes me realize to never, if I ever make a film, to not do that, to not make an action war movie, to try to be more creative than. And this isn't even a knock on these filmmakers. Just it's been done, and if we wanted to do something else, we should try to think of something besides cartels or dictator armies or what have you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So 3 and 3.5. That's and you said 4.5 and 5 for Do the Right Thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad. Not bad. So we actually. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm down to watch more Spike Lee movies. These are I like these a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we did John Waters, I immediately was like, I would love to do more. I've been wanting to do more James Gunn. And now I want to do more Spike Lee. I want to do more John Woo. There's so many directors that we've discovered that we've just tasted a couple films of. That is just like, man, I want to watch their whole filmography. I was thinking this morning that eventually, I doubt we're gonna hit another pure drought period like we did during the pandemic. Of like no good movies coming out. But boy, if we get a drought, I would love to just spend a month going through somebody's catalog and just focusing, like spotlight, do a multi-parter on this person, and just do 2 or 3 movies a week until we get most of their shit. Instead of jumping around. How would you feel about that?
I would be 100% done with that. That way you're just in the mood, you're in the style, and it helps you understand as you watch like more and more in the films, like watching the artist grow from like this is what they were into when they started, and this is how they did it. But this is like whether they change style or genre up, or if they're just figuring out how to perfect like what they're trying to do from the first film, and having it be in their the magnum opus or whatever the.
So next week we actually did a schedule because of the issue we had at the end of the last episode, and I'm gonna actually change it already. I'm not even gonna say what we were supposed to do because I don't want to tease people that would have preferred that, but I want to see the new Paul Schrader movie with the Card Counter with Oscar Isaac. And I figure that what we can do with that is probably also see First Reformed, Paul Schrader's movie from 2017 with Ethan Hawke, which is also fantastic. And either that, or would you rather do Taxi Driver, which he wrote and Martin Scorsese directed, which is his classic claim to fame. I'm more partial to First Reformed, but I'll let you decide of the two.
Do the one that he directed then. That's fine.
I can't.
That way you get him in full control. I said do the one that he directed, just so. Hello.
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay. But yeah, I was gonna say, do the one that he directed. Just that way you're seeing him when he's got full creative control.
It's just the difference. Like he wrote Taxi Driver in the 70s and First Reforms from 2017. So it's a big time jump. But no, I'm fine with that. I think it's really good. It's just First Reformed is an excellent film, and you should see it. So I'm fine to do it now. All right, that's it. We're doing Paul Schrader next week, and we got another new film on the docket. I don't know if it's in theaters, but it just released. So we'll do that next week. We'll see you soon. Everybody out there, make sure that you follow us on so subscribe on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Spotify, Apple. Make sure you leave reviews and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. We are growing in our viewership. I've been watching, so I appreciate you guys out there that are sticking around week to week, or even coming in for movies that you've seen. Somebody reached out to me and said that they watched all the episodes for movies that they've personally seen. And they've really enjoyed what we're doing, so it's been a nice motivator. Also, I've been talking about the Best Girl Anime podcast. That is coming up soon. I think I meant to record it this week, but some shit came up, so it should be out next week at some point. So make sure you give that a follow. I've been thinking about doing some crossovers as well when we do an anime. If we want to do an anime film, or if we want to do something like the Ava movies or something like that. All right. Nice. You got anything else to say? I just talked a bunch.
No, just keep watching, and we'll keep doing our thing.
All right, man. Well, you got a big day, Mr. HBO. So have fun. It's still early in the morning over there, and I'm gonna let's get ready for some football.
Good luck. I'm literally going to get off this computer and go straight to work.
All right, man. Have a good day.
All right. Later, guys.
Bye. Bye.